Happy Friday, guys. Hope you guys have had a great week and everything is starting off smooth for this March, where the theme is building self-trust and confidence. And so today we're going to be listening to a portion of a TED Talk by Peter Sage. And this TED Talk is entitled How to Eliminate Self-Doubt Forever and the Power of Your Subconscious Mind, which is a theme that we keep coming back to in the process of this reparenting journey. So reworking the subconscious mind is really the same thing as reparenting. It's just a different way to word it. I think maybe reparenting is most likely more expensive because it includes more skills, and the repatterning of your mind is just perhaps one portion of the reparenting. But in any case, what is most important is that we find a way to reduce the self-doubt. That comes by working with the subconscious mind and also skill building and making good, positive, supportive connection. Those are the three things. And so in this episode, in this TED Talk rather, he talks and focuses in on the subconscious mind and how that plays a role in self-trust. So I only will play a portion of this TED Talk. There are two other solutions that he gives at the end that I did not include, so you can click on the link in the show notes if you'd like to listen to it in its entirety. But it's a really good talk, and it gives you some great insight about how to practically take steps to eliminate your self-doubt by working with the power of your subconscious mind, which is what we've been discussing in the works of Rev Ike and Brian Withers. And so it plays in and builds on that theme and that goal and that strategy of reparenting, reprocessing, reworking the subconscious mind, so that we can move towards something that's more relaxed. Once we have self-trust, we're able to relax and fall into the flow of life. Self-doubt prevents that. And that's the energetic block that keeps us stuck, or one of them. So without any further ado, here's Peter Sage.
Thank you. Why is it that intelligent people procrastinate? Why is it that people that are so self-motivated often self-sabotage? And why is it that no matter how many new business opportunities we get or new skills we try to learn, many of us just are simply finding different ways of earning the same amount of money or achieving the same kind of level of success, as if there was kind of a glass ceiling above our head that we were trying to break through but didn't know how? Now, one thing we do know is it's not down to lack of resources or opportunity. We live in a time in history where there are more resources and opportunity than ever before. In fact, there's many people that have access to resources and opportunity that really never get the bat off the shoulder and take a swing at life. And the results are mediocre or disappointing. And then there's other people, those who have access to virtually no resources or no opportunity, and against all of the odds went out and created magic for the rest of us to go, wow, and stand in awe of. People like Colonel Sanders, who retired broke at 65 before starting KFC. Obviously Oprah, people like Helen Keller. Or even Albert Einstein, who dropped out of school at 15 and then failed the entrance exam for the Zurich Polytechnic. No. You see, if you want a masterclass in taking away the excuse that resources and opportunity are the reason why you're not successful, go study any of the lives of the people on screen. But you see, as human beings, our nervous system is hardwired for comfort, whereas the essence of what makes us, some would say our soul, is hardwired for growth. And it's managing that dynamic tension between how good a comfort zone feels and the innate calling of our potential that lies outside of that causes the frustration for most people and keeps them on that hamster wheel of mediocrity. So how do we unravel that? Well, let's look at the human brain. See, what separates us from almost all of the animal kingdom, the crowning achievement of human biology, is the front part of the brain, what's known as the neocortex or the frontal lobe. And that neocortex operates at a brain wavelength of alpha or beta. And one of the challenges is that doesn't get turned on until we're about 7 years old. See, kids operate in delta and theta, which is why babies sleep so much, and why kids live in that magical fantasy world where they're operating at theta with no critical thinking. Now, it also means children are very impressionable, and why Aristotle is widely quoted as saying that give me the child for 7 years, and I'll give you the man. But what happens when we drill down on that? Why is that important to why we procrastinate or self-sabotage? Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say it's Dad's turn to take little Johnny shopping and the kids. And, Mom's busy that day, and he's kind of frustrated. He's got to go out and get the job done. And one thing you need to know about Dad, he's got his own stuff to deal with right now. He's figuring out how to pay the credit card bill that was higher this month than he thought. He's worried about whether the boss is going to be downsizing soon. And he's still reeling from the lack of intimacy that morning caused by a fight that he had with his wife. He's dealing with the stuff as we all do. Now, little Johnny doesn't live in that world. And so when they get to the checkout, As every good retail psychologist knows, they place the products at the eye height of the people you're trying to sell to. And so Johnny sees the toys, and Johnny wants a toy, and he's like, Daddy, Daddy, can I have a toy? And Daddy comes out of his mind fog and says, no, you can't have a toy. For a start, he doesn't think he can afford it, but now's just not the time. But as parents will understand, children are prime examples of the ability to be persistent, are they not? And so little Johnny says, Daddy, Daddy, I want a toy. Please, can I have a toy? See, little Johnny doesn't live in a world of credit card debt. And in his frustration on dealing with his stuff and trying to handle the kids and all the other stuff, Daddy snaps out and says, listen, you can't have a toy, you don't deserve it, you're not good enough, you're not behaved enough today. And Daddy thinks that'll just keep him quiet while he goes back to dealing with his big world problems. But what's happening right now is quite significant. You see, little Johnny doesn't hear Dad's frustration. All Johnny hears is that I'm not good enough, I'm not worth it, and I'm undeserving. And probably spends a large part of the rest of his life unconsciously acting out that behavior to justify why he's right, including self-sabotaging if the threat of success comes along to challenge that inner model of the world. You see, when it comes to being able to work with psychology, and after thousands of hours of working with people all over the world, I've come to know that the undisputed first law in psychotherapeutic intervention and other areas, the undisputed first law of personal growth is this, that people will never rise above the opinion of themselves. Now, one of the challenges that opinion is largely formed in our childhood years, sub-7, from the perception of where we think we did or didn't get love from the people we most wanted it from. I usually let people sit with that one for a while. It also mirrors the first law of relationships, which I firmly believe states that no one can ever love us more than we love ourselves. Now, one of the other challenges on that is that we are also creatures of habit. Now, what does that mean? That means that prefrontal cortex, that neocortex, that frontal lobe that serves all of that executive decision-making is prime real estate. In fact, the brain weighs 1/50th of the body weight, but takes up 20% of all of the calories. So when it comes to using that frontal lobe, evolution has some shortcuts. It says, well, clearly you're using intelligence to make the decision, so it should be a good decision. So when you choose the fries instead of the salad, it doesn't care, its job is to adapt. And if you make that decision over and over again, then rather than take up critical thinking, which is meant to serve you intelligently, it hands it over to the midbrain. And it becomes an unconscious behavior or pattern, or what we also call a habit. So now you order the fries just because it's what you do. You don't even question it. Now that can be very useful when it comes to learning, or not learning how to have to walk every day, but it also sets up some challenges. You see, we suddenly arrive at work on our day off, and we don't know why. Or we suddenly get home and realize, where did the last 2 kilometers or 2 miles of driving go? Wow, how did I avoid all of the crazies? Good old midbrain at work. But the deeper challenge to that, as creatures of habit, is the fact that we're using our conscious brain only a small amount of the time, that critical decision-making. The rest of the time, like 95% of the time, is what I call people sleeping awake. In fact, I'll give you an analogy. Why do you imagine that the conscious mind is an ant? Here he is, cute little fella. Ants are industrious, they're hardworking, they're determined, they're going to get the job done. This is your conscious mind. In fact, this particular ant went to a personal development seminar last week. He set his goals, and he's marching north confidently in the direction of his achievements. The problem is, he's marching over the back of an elephant that's heading south, our unconscious mind, with all of our limiting patterns, limiting beliefs, and all of the other unresolved self-issues that go on there. And we start to see why we self-sabotage. See, how do you get that elephant moving in the right direction? Well, let me give you another example, another analogy. The mind is like a compass needle. In fact, it can only point in one direction at a time. But when we're operating from our ants, that 5% of the time where we're conscious and using free will, we can grab that compass needle and we can point it anywhere. That's what free will allows us to do. And if we're feeling down, we can go choose to watch a comedy or call a friend who can cheer us up. And if we're feeling low on energy, we can go put the kettle on and make ourselves a coffee or a drink. But 95% of the time, we're not doing that. And as soon as we let our hand off of that compass needle consciously, it will always drift back to its default magnetic north, which unfortunately for most people is more negative than positive. See? And that leads us to our third challenge. And that is something you may want to really tattoo on the inside of your eyelids. And that is that environment trumps will. What do I mean by that? I mean that our intention will always be beaten by our environment over time. For example, let's say that you're a music fan, but you don't like jazz. That's for the other people. You're kind of a country and western kind of guy or girl. And you listen to country and western in the car going to work, but your car's broken down this week, so your good neighbor around the corner that works at the same place has offered to give you a lift. So you're going to share the 45-minute drive to work and back for the next 5 days. But they listen to jazz. Now, I don't care what you think consciously. Within 3 days, I know what's going to happen. Within 3 days in the car, you're tapping your feet to the beat. Within 5 days, you're humming it in the shower. You see, we don't get to choose whether or not we get programmed. We're programmable by design. We can only choose how we want to be programmed. Another way of saying that is you can have all of the intention to be as warm and hot as you like. You can raise your body temperature. You can put on some big clothes. But if you choose to live in a freezer, the environment's going to win over time. In other words, you can read all of the positive affirmations. You can stand in front of the mirror and say that you believe in yourself. But if you live with somebody who is constantly pulling you down, somebody who is reminding you of why you're not good enough and why it won't work, at some point you're going to start to believe it. And it's the law of conformity. If you hang out with 9 recreational drug users, I've got news for you, you're most likely going to become the 10th. If you hang out with 9 positive people that look at life through the lens of how we can, not why we can't, that hold up a mirror for each other's greatness, to be midwives to each other's dreams instead of stealing them, you're likely going to become the 10th, or you'll leave the environment. It's the 95% law, the law of conformity. Huh? So how do we change that? Well, there's 3 tips that I want to share with you that'll help turn this around. And I'm a pretty simple guy, so I want to give you some pretty simple tips. And I'll break it into 3 things. The first is, stop putting the wrong things in. You see, as I said, we are adaptation machines. Our bodies, our physical bodies adapt to our environment. We don't get to choose that. We only get to choose the environment we put them in. If it's the gym or McDonald's, the body doesn't care. Its job is to adapt. But it's the same with our mind. So stop putting the wrong programming in. In other words, if you think of the 2 biggest things that impact us unconsciously more than anything else, it's the mainstream media and our peer group of who we hang with.
Hey guys, welcome back. Now, this is a really great TikTok. I think it has around 10 million views or something. It's quite popular. So go ahead and check out the last 2 suggestions that he makes. But I chose this because, first of all, it's an excellent action-oriented TikTok that really helps us gain the insight that we need to effectively begin shifting our environment and our connections, because they have a significant impact on our self-trust, our confidence, and basically every other area of our lives. You know, they say you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. You kind of adopt their traits by osmosis. And so it's better to surround yourself with people who are pursuing higher dreams, if you want to fall into that group, right? It depends on your self-awareness, your goals, and making sure that you're in alignment with the right environment and people. That's so critical. Because while self-trust isn't an inside job, it's impacted by your environment and things that are outside of your direct control. You can influence them, of course. But what he mentions as the first solution is managing the information that you put in, because of how your subconscious mind works, and carrying those projections and expectations that you experience as a result of past experiences, for example, those faulty beliefs that were coded after a trauma, for example, when you were a child. Even the younger that it happens, the more quickly that will tend to cement, because your brain as a child is rapidly growing and developing. So for that reason, childhood trauma tends to be a bit more trickier to work with, or requires more persistence and effort, because you're working with something really at its core root. What I'd like to say now is, we're working on our self-trust this month and reprogramming that subconscious mind to eliminate the self-doubt. The most important thing that we can really realize is that we need to give ourselves evidence. That evidence can come from your actions, from your achievements. Actions, I guess, are leading to the achievements, but your environment that you're surrounding yourself in, or the environment that you're building, because you're not powerless over your environment in most cases. You have some ability to influence it. For example, you could join a new community group, you could switch your job, or start a new relationship, or find a new friend group, for example. And the last, again, is that connection in those relationships. As you begin to tweak your environment and process the new experiences and store them as evidence, your self-trust begins to grow. As you have more success, you are experiencing an increasing level of competence, and that also fuels your self-growth, or self-trust and confidence. Because you'll have now the ability to handle situations that perhaps you didn't before. But the most important is to work with the subconscious mind. That is the core of reparenting. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed this today. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Don't forget to have fun. That's like really the most important part. You have to allow yourself to have fun. Everyone is on a different journey, but maybe you doubt if you deserve to have fun or that you can't have fun, or maybe you're too stressed. But try to have hope that things can work out well. Not can, but will. Because you are the creator of your own reality. You might need to take smaller steps, but you will get there, for sure. And that's why I say every weekend, on these Friday Fireside chats, the most important thing is to have fun. Find some joy this weekend. It's really the most important thing. If you do nothing else for your reparenting journey, focus on joy. That will lead you to the right direction. Because your joy is normally tied to the things you liked when you were a little kid. And that expression of yourself is your inner child, your true self. So that's why joy can be used as a way to guide you back home. So have some fun this weekend, and I'll see you soon. Peace out.